About to go live in the next second, and we are live. And with that, let me quickly introduce you to this lady and say hello to her. Genevieve, welcome to Saturday Sport.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon, Marco. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, good of you to remind us that it is afternoon. Clive and myself, we're still getting used to this time slot where it is afternoon. We're normally on our way home already, but good to have you and to be able to catch you on this show. And like I said to the people, they can also watch you on Facebook as well as YouTube. If you want to go check out what Genevieve is all about. Genevieve, welcome. And like I said, lots to cover where you are concerned. And congratulations on representing not just South Africa, but also Africa at the Olympics. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start where it all started for you. Before we get even into the sporting aspect of everything, let's talk about Genevieve Lentz. Who are you?
Wow, that's a big question. Genevieve Lentz is basically a girl from the hood. I always say Jenny from the block. She's from
Ah,
Pontyville.
yeah. This is about
Born
we
and
will just go one over from Heidelberg, where the center of the universe is. That's where I grew up. It's okay.
Oh,
It's okay.
wow.
But
Okay.
the center, but representing. Huh?
Yeah, representing these streets. Um, I was born and bred in Pontyville, and I was introduced. So basically, I'm one of three daughters. My mom was a single parent, and we grew up in Pontyville. Grew up in a matriarchal home, obviously, because dad was not there. So my grandmother, basically, not really biological grandmother, but someone who kind of took my mom under the wing, and she was like a grandmother to us. So she raised us, and I attended Arcadia Primary and Arcadia High, and that at Arcadia Primaries we actually got introduced to table tennis. Yeah.
Somebody said to me, I think when we posted that you're going to be on the show today, they said, "Is that the table tennis lady?" I think that's how you've also become known amongst the people out there. Why is that? I think that table tennis is obviously a big part of your life. But before we get into all of that, let's talk about just your sporting career, how that all started. But before that, even. Is sport what you do for a living, or what other aspects to you is there? What do you do for a living, basically?
So I wish that sports would be, I could make a living out of sports, but unfortunately, we're still seen as a Cinderella sport. But obviously, I hope that after all this exposure, that we get bumped up now, in terms of the
Mm.
sporting ladder. But yeah, I taught high school for 15 years at St Andrews High in Alces River, and then I got the opportunity at CPUT on a DHET program. It's called the NGAP program. So they're basically fast track academics, young academics. So I'm currently a lecturer since 2018, and I'm on this program, and basically the program resources me to study and obviously teach at the same time. So that's currently what I'm doing. But voluntarily, obviously, I am still very much involved in table tennis. Most of my time is taken up in table tennis, with table tennis rather. So I'm currently on the Cape Town Table Tennis Executive, where I am the technical convener. And so I am responsible for the development, obviously, of officials in terms of umpires and referees. Yeah.
You of course, you are held in high regard in the sporting circles as well. Was that something that you wanted to go in terms of all the official demo of that umpiring and refereeing and all of that, and being known for that for excellence? Was that something that was part of the plan?
It was never part of the plan. But you have your ideas, but God, He basically he's got His plan. I think there's actually a scripture where He says He guides your steps. He's got His big plan. When I got into table tennis, my sister. And so how I actually got onto club level is my sister, when we were at university, she saw an article in our local newspaper in Bonteville that a club had just started, was called the Boundary Table Tennis Club. And she's like, can we please go and check it out. And I'm like, I don't really want to go. And she like really dragged me down. And so we got there, and she was really, we both were really in awe of what we saw, because here table tennis was being played competitively, and it's not like at school, on school level. And we were then invited to come to a tournament. I think it was the Boundary Table Tennis first tournament, because they had it been established that year. And we got invited, and immediately the chairperson just put me on the table as an umpire. And I'm thinking, I don't even know the rules, I mean, I just played school table tennis. So anyway, that's basically what kickstarted that. And I think I started playing league, obviously, but not the best player. My sister went on to play for Western Province and for South Africa. But I always found myself in the umpire's chair. And I eventually found out I actually have a knack for this. And then obviously encouraged by various officials in table tennis to pursue a career, because that was obviously opening up, those spots were opening up in table tennis as a career for women specifically, as an umpire, and obviously as a referee ultimately. So that was never part of the plan. No, it was God's plan.
So when about was that, Genevieve? Because we now fast forwarding to 2021, and you're about to go to the Tokyo Olympics, and you've had a lot of firsts in your career being an official. But when did this really start? In which year was that?
So I qualified as an international umpire in 2006, where I got, and then I started, obviously that kickstarted my international career. I was sent to, it was always my dream to go to Geneva because of my name being Genevieve. And, where I got sent to Switzerland, and it was so amazing. So that was my first stint in 2006. I went to the World Para Games, and then I got selected in 2008 like a rookie. I'm like a rookie umpire, international umpire, and I get selected to the Beijing Paralympics, and that was just such an amazing experience for me. And then in 2010, I got selected to the first Youth Olympics, which was in Singapore, and this was the most amazing experience of my life. So it's like young umpires who kind of fast track. And it was such a beautiful experience. 2012 comes along, and then obviously, but just to go back a little bit, at that point, I'm still an international umpire. So in table tennis, you obviously have to do several exams, and you have to attend several tournaments, obviously international tournaments. But to go one level up from becoming an international umpire, to be eligible for selection for the Olympics, you need to be a blue badge umpire. We call it a blue badge umpire. So that basically means that you have to write an advanced umpire's exam, and you have to get 4 good evaluations. And then these 4 good evaluations needs to be done at international tournaments. And you can only pick up 2 good evaluations at an international tournament. So it was very difficult. But I must say that the South African Table Tennis Board was very supportive in progressing my career, and at every opportunity that they got to send me abroad, they actually took that. And so in 2009 is when I did write my AUT exam, and in Japan I wrote my exam, and I got 2 good evaluations in Japan, and then I needed 2 more. So I think I picked up my 3rd good evaluation in Moscow, which was in Russia, in 2010, later that year. And then my final evaluation, good evaluation, I actually got in South Africa when we held the first World Junior Championships in Cape Town at the Good Hope Center. So then I got qualified as what we now call a blue badge umpire. And then in 2012, I got selected to the Olympics, which was the biggest moment of my life. And even bigger, I got selected to umpire the women's semi-final. Now you need to be really good at what you do.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
I am not obviously praising myself.
No, we have to praise you. That's why I need these shows just to be able to get through all of these achievements, and love the story that you're telling.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I got to umpire the semi-finals. And lo and behold, the opportunity comes in 2015. I'm at the All Africa Games. And one of the ATTF officials, so ATTF is the African Table Tennis Federation, he's there and he's like, we need to get African referees qualified. And so if you know anything about sport in Africa, it's still very much patriarchal. And I was among one of probably 2 or 3 women that then in 2016 actually wrote the national referees exam in Sudan. And in 2017, I qualified as the first female referee. I was the only female to pass my referees exam. So yeah, that's kind of the journey I was on, and now this is the pinnacle of my my table tennis career, which started in a classroom at Arcadia Primary School.
What good can come out of Montyville? Well, you're looking at, you're listening to that, Genevieve Lentz. But like I said, we can go on and on about your achievements. But there's one aspect that I want to talk to you, especially because this is a Christian radio station as well. And I love it when I get to a point where I can ask people this type of question about the faith. And so, what role does faith play in your sporting career?
I grew up in a Christian home. And when I talk about Christian home, I'm not talking about we serve in a religion of Christianity. Christian home means we accepted Christ in our lives. Mom, because she was a single parent, faith was very big in our home. And Radio Tyberg and Radio CCFM was constantly, and it still does. If I go into my living room right now, I'm telling you, the radio is playing. So faith was very important. It was a central part of our lives, an integral part of our lives. And I think for me specifically, it's very important because Christ is core of who I am. And everything that I do is ultimately stemming from my Christian principles, and then obviously that filters into my sporting career as well. So it plays a big role. And then just to be an ambassador for Christ, I think, and I'm not just saying that because Christians are listening to me, but I think anyone that knows me will tell you that I try and represent Christ. And for me, I'm not a preacher, I'm not an evangelist, but I think, they say if there's a song that says, let your light shine, so that men can see your good deeds. But ultimately, the praise must go to God. And that's what that song's all about. So I hope, and also because in my profession or in the sporting arena, is you get to meet, you get to engage people of different faiths, different cultures, and you got to treat them with respect regardless. And that's where my Christian principles are very important, that I do what I do with integrity, and that I do it with honesty, and that I'm principled at the end of the day, and that no one can point a finger and say, oh, but you're a Christian, but these are the kind of the decisions that you're taking. And then as a referee, there are times in a tournament where the umpire, so if you know anything about table tennis, the umpire has jurisdiction over the court, right? So anything that happens within the court in terms of the players and the equipment and the points and those sort of things, the umpires, they have control over that. However, there may be times where they may call the referee to make a decision because maybe the umpires don't have authority over a decision that needs to be made. So let's say, for instance, a player was being disrespectful to another player and tried to throw their racket at them. So that's very serious, and the player can actually be then suspended from that match or from the tournament. It depends on the referee ultimately. So the umpire can't make that decision, but the umpire then calls the referee to the court. The referee then observes and gets all the information. Obviously, the referee's been watching all of this because we sit outside of the courts, and so we know exactly what's been going on. But also, we need to hear it from the umpires, and then we need to make a decision. And we can't be seen as being biased. We need to be neutral. We need to be fair at all times. And I think being a Christian and being principled and having integrity, that does help a lot with that. So I would say that faith is the center of who I am. It plays the major role in my sporting career, in my life. I give God all the glory. I was actually, if you look at my Facebook page, this week was a phenomenal week for me because I graduated with my master's, and I was saying it's like unwrapping gifts every day. God's just giving me a new gift, but ultimately, God can't bless you if you're not focused on Him. And he specifically says that, and if you are focused on him with unwavering faith, regardless of the white noise that happens around you, he's going to bless you.
Yeah.
So not to be distracted by anything or anyone. So yeah.
So, like I said, we probably need a few shows to be able to speak to you, and we're going to speak to you, of course, probably after the Olympics as well. And I know your confirmation has come. I saw on your Facebook you're very proud to show that the dream is actually not a dream anymore; it's become alive. But I want to ask you this one question about being a deputy referee at the Olympic Games. What does it mean for Africa's image?
So I think, this is the highest honor for Africa, for firstly South Africa and then Africa as a whole, because I am the first deputy referee, or I'm part of the referee team, to represent table tennis at the Olympics since 1865. So since the 1800s, which is quite a big deal. And so I think it's going to lift the profile of table tennis in Africa, but more so for women in Africa. And like I said earlier, that sport is still very much patriarchal, whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not. But there are sports that are making strides in terms of fast tracking and progressing their women. And I must say that the South African Table Tennis Board, the African Table Tennis Federation, are taking strides. And they are actually championing that in terms of getting it right, because the IOC actually has very specific stipulations in terms of how to participate at the Olympics. And so you need a makeup of equal gender. So there has to be gender equity. So they'll say 40% of women, or let's say 50% women and 50% men. So is then the prerogative of the federations, to make sure that there's development taking place, so that they, when the opportunity comes, so they always say that you need to be prepared for the opportunity. So when the opportunity comes, that you can send off some officials from your country, and you can proudly be represented on the world stage. So it definitely, I hope it's going to raise the profile for our sport. Sadly, there's not a lot of money or sponsors on board. But I hope that the sponsors are seeing this, and I hope that they see it as an opportunity to invest in our sport, and then just to take our sports to greater heights, because there's only so much we can do as athletes and as officials. The rest is definitely up to them. And so I am appealing, sorry to use your stage, but I am appealing to those sponsors. I mean, I'm thinking of our players that get the opportunity, and there's only so much money that we get from Lotto, and there's only so much money that we can, and that money is kind of like the pie has to be divided between all players in Africa or South Africa. So there is very little money in terms of availability, or money available in terms of development. So yeah. So I think I'm hoping that actually lifts the profile. We have Theo Kogel, who was now selected the past weekend for the Paralympics. And this is the first it's not the first for South Africa. We've had previous Paralympians. But I think we seriously need to think about where we are at in terms of our sport. And we need to get more sponsors involved and just lift and not speak about table tennis as a Cinderella sport. I mean, if we're going to be thinking with that kind of mindset, then that's how people perceive us. And I don't allow people to call my sport ping pong. What is ping pong? Table tennis. So that's also the little things, the technical things. But
that is why we say we have people like yourselves that can raise the profile and can speak excellently about it, and to be excellent in what you do. We got to land, but I want to ask you this final question though. And I think talking about being an inspiration, what advice will you give to a young person who desires to become a professional sports person, and more specifically women in Africa and in South Africa?
I like the question you asked me earlier was this my plan? No, it was never my plan, but it was God's plan. But along my plan, God had planted the little seed of a dream to aspire to. And I'm pretty much sure that if you are watching me right now and you so much want to get involved in sport, that is the seed being planted within you. And the Holy Spirit is actually convicting you that this is your gift. And so your job is then to pursue that gift, and to have unwavering faith, and to trust God in the process, because I'm one person. I mean, I'm one person out of how many people in this world, or on this continent of Africa, who's now been selected to go to the Olympics to represent Africa. So just keep your eyes on the Lord, and keep your faith, and then also, like I said, yeah, keep your eyes fixed on the Lord. That's very important, and He will reward you. And He'll make sure that if He's placed that kind of seed in your heart, that it will come into fruition. And you just got to keep the faith. And then also, ultimately, for women in Africa, is women, we are good enough. We are good enough. We are just as good as our male counterparts. We have the potential, we have the talent to do equally well. So it takes a mindset, the renewal of the mind. God speaks about the renewal of the mind. So renew your mind to think that you have enough, you are enough, to achieve all your dreams. And for the younger people, is dream big. I like Toyota's motto. Not that I'm not sponsored by Toyota.
Maybe, maybe,
But
maybe not yet.
no, maybe not now. So maybe Toyota, please, come on board. But yeah, they tell you to dream the impossible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you got to do. And to dream the impossible, you got to have unwavering faith. You got to have, the Bible talks about faith as a mustard seed, and it's so small. And we can't have that faith. And I like it when I speak to children and I see their faith. I've got a nephew, he's just turned six, but he believes with all of his heart, that whatever it is that he wants, God will give it to him. His parents will give it to him. We, as his aunts and his grandmother, will make it happen for him. So he's got this childlike faith. And so he's not being tainted rather, by the world's challenges. But like I said, is the white noise. If you keep focus on, if you like Peter and you just keep focus and you focus on Christ, you can walk on waters. And that ultimately means that you just need to keep the faith. That's all you got to do.
Genevieve, that is where we're going to have to leave it for today. And I don't think this is the last of this particular conversation. And I love the fact that we're talking about raising profiles of sports. And often I get people telling me, what about netball? What about this? What about that sport? And I'm glad to be able to connect with you in this regard, that we can start speaking into table tennis. And I think when I grew up, table tennis was one of those sports we used to always love to play at the community center as well. And it was thriving, and lots of players getting provincial and national colors from the people in the hood. And so I think it's something that we need to pay attention to and get funding for it as well. But lastly, I want to say my congratulations to you, and we certainly will be looking out for you at the Olympics. And don't take any nonsense from anybody there, and we know you won't. But thank you for being part of the show this morning, and God bless you on your journey.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you for the opportunity to be on your show and to speak to the listeners and the viewers and the followers. And God's got me, and He's got my back. So yeah, thank you so much, and I'll speak to you when I get back from the Olympics. Thank you.
Awesome. Till next time. Cheers. God bless you.
Goodbye.
So that was Genevieve Lentz, and she's going to be representing Africa at the Olympics as an umpire and referee, a deputy referee at the Olympics. And what a proud moment for all of us, and especially those in Bonteheuwel and those who know her. But with that, I need to get into a break, and then I've got the Governor, Bruce Naden of Sports Chaplaincy South Africa, for the Chaplain's Corner when we